Hello and Sunny Bonani! It's Monday, the 5th of December. It's day one of the playoffs for the top tier of Breakaway League Racing next season. As you can see, we have 18 minutes of this qualifying session. Don Lacca, Mex, Tindo, S. Buddha are here. And remember, Don Lacca and Mex are the two drivers who qualified for a playoff spot from Tier 2. Rather 3 along with Tindo. S. Buddha is also here. He was one of the Tier 1 drivers at risk of getting relegated. We don't see Fundo here. Perhaps he will take part as this session goes on along. Definitely hope so for his case, as is also the case for Titus, the former champion Titus, you would remember, who found himself, mired in the playoff spots. A combination of circumstances saw him miss races, as of course he was also affected by load shedding, as were many of the drivers this season. Don Lacca, how will he do? What a trajectory he's had in the Breakaway Racing League stable. He came in the Wild West, in the trenches of Tier 3 to Don, and he was one of the first drivers, of course, to begin that tier when Breakaway expanded to the third tier. Donathan Lacca made his presence felt there, worked his way up. He pretty much became one of the most improved drivers very, very quickly, and worked his way up the standings, earned his spot in Tier 2, and started off very, very well. And as you can see, it was well enough for him to earn that playoff spot. So we'll see how he fares here as the session rolls on along. He will be among the first to set a time. Let's see what he will do here. Ahead of him is S. Buddha, of course. So we'll see how the Tier 1 driver fares there. Clay, a bit disappointed that we're not seeing the Tier 1 drivers, of course, that being Fundo and Titus. Yeah, hopefully we will see them as this session moves right on along. We're on board now with Don Lacca on a cloudy day out here in Barcelona. It's a 22.3 split at the end of Sector 1. Here he comes now, hurtling towards the oh-so-twisty Sector 2. It's not the easiest of tracks, is Circuit de Catalunya out here in Spain. As you can see, it is quite technical. It's quite twisty all the way throughout, with the exception, of course, of that main straight. Here he comes now. It's sixth gear through the right-hander, through the DRS. Straight, on the back straight, comes Don Lacca. I do wonder if he'll be giving S. Buddha a lot to think about. Remember, S. Buddha was ahead of Don, and it looks like S. Buddha slowed down ahead of Don. So S. Buddha might just have abandoned his attempt here, unless he's going significantly slower on his attempt. But I do think S. Buddha is going to give it another go. So Don, I would not be surprised, could be the man to set a very, very good representative time. Buddha is 1:05. Don is 1:19.1. Straight to the top of the pops with just under 14 minutes of the qualifying session to go. Welcome to the playoffs. If you just joined us, my name is Bob O'Connor. I'll be with you today and for the Tier 1 playoffs as well as the Tier 2 playoffs. Don Lacca, a man who's looking absolutely comfortable. And let's see now what Mex will have in response. Another superb talent in the colors of McLaren this season. Here he comes now. He might just go top. He will go top. It's a 1:18.964 for the McLaren driver. Beautiful stuff from Mex, making his presence felt and giving Tindo, who's currently on his outlap, a heck of a lot to think about. By now, the engineers will be in Tindo's ear, letting him know what he needs to do, what the benchmark is, and, Mex, what a beautiful effort by him. Sensational driver. We've seen him have some beautiful battles with the likes of Smirts Django, the King Rapture, and Tabo T92 in this past Tier 2 season. But, of course, those three drivers earned their automatic qualification. So they're just kicking back somewhere here in South Africa, just watching these drivers do their thing in Barcelona. We look forward, of course, to seeing Django, Rapture, and Tabo T92 in the top tier of Breakaway League Racing. But Mex being Mex, he will want to give them a lot to worry about, a lot to think about. Tindo, meanwhile, came back into the pits. Perhaps he was not happy, was Tindo, with something in his setup, so he just nursed that Mercedes W13 all the way back to the pit lane. Here comes Mex now, following suit. Happy, comfortable, confident, and top of the pops as things stand. 118.964, that is the benchmark. Don Laka, not very far behind. Just a couple of tenths between the top two currently. As Buddha got his work cut out, that 121.5 will not suffice. Now, as Buddha is also a driver who's had a topsy-turvy season, heavily impacted, of course, by availability, and it's now going to be up to him to show his mettle and show what Tier 1 drivers are made of. As things stand, as Buddha is the only Tier 1 driver who will be here to do that. Let's see how he fares and how the rest of this session fares as well. Tindo! He is here. Had a very, very interesting season. Fiercely competitive driver is Tindo. He's been intent on reclaiming what he would feel is his much-deserved spot in the top tier. Lost out last season when there was a huge upset in the favor of former Tier 2 drivers as far as last season's playoffs are concerned. Well, Tindo is going to want to turn that around. But right now, he is, of course, among the Tier 2 crop. Let's catch up with the comments now. Tier 2 gents are going to move to Tier 1 here, says Sequay in the comments. Kid K agrees absolutely. Sequay says, hey, can I race for Titus? I'll use default setups. Playoffs, let's go, says Luddy in the comments. Caboza says, come on, Breakaway. Titus and Fundo are out tonight. Well, that might cost them heavily. But Titus and Fundo being out tonight is going to be good news for Tindo, who we are hopping on board with now to see how he takes turn 1. It's gear 4, a little bit heavy on the curves, keeps it and shifts through 5 and 6 through turn number 3. Hurdles down towards turn 4 without incident. His split is a 22.3. Very, very interesting. We got a time as things stand. As far as that Sector 1 split is concerned, if he can keep it up or improve, he definitely will be challenging the top runners. More specifically, Liddy's time or Liddy's P2 spot might be at risk here. Let's see how he fares. Gear 4 through that sequence of corners. The right-hander is a fast one, lifts off the throttle, but takes it and opens up that rear wing for this DRS straight. Gear 8 into the left-hander. Tindo not taking any chances. A little bit wide. There, the car drifted a little bit out of that left-hander. Tindo in Sector 3. Puts his braking zone and goes to Gear 3. It was quite heavy on the curve there. And is now going to finish his attempt. He is going to go flat out through the final corner and open up that rear wing and cross the line in P3. Definitely lost time in Sectors 2 and 3 relative to Mex and Don Laka. P3. Well, we know what kind of a fighter Tindo is. He's definitely going to give it a go. He's going to give those top two a lot to think about, as well as Buddha. Now, Mfundo and Titus being unavailable for this race will definitely put them at massive risk of getting relegated here. Remember, there are only 6 drivers, so you have 5 other competitors, and you have 3 races to collect as many points as you can. And the top 3 drivers, as far as points are concerned, by the end of race 3, that being on Wednesday, those will be your drivers to either progress to Tier 1, if they were from the Tier 2 crop, or to retain their Tier 1 spots, in the case of Mfundo and Titus. But them missing a race just heaps on all the pressure on them, and they're going to pray that one of these 4 have a DNF, either today, tomorrow, or Wednesday. So, Mfundo and Titus cannot have any mistakes. They need to finish in those top spots if and when they take part in this playoff process. Tindo bringing it back home into the pits, while the likes of Don and S. Buddha are preparing to give it another go. As Buddha, a man who perhaps for a lot of people is quite a surprising candidate to be found in the playoffs. You know what kind of pace he's had over the years. He's a veteran of this Breakaway Racing League, and now finds himself in the fight of his life versus three candidates from Tier 2 who will not give anything away. It's going to take a lot for Buddha to give Tindo, Don Laka, and Mex a run for their money. Also, a man is Buddha, who was heavily affected by the load shedding, missed crucial sequences of races, and that affected his points position towards the end of the season. 6 minutes and 36 seconds to go in this qualifying session. If you've just joined us, welcome to the playoffs. It's the big battle to secure a spot in the top tier Breakaway League Racing. This is Buddha in the colors of Williams, being cheered on somewhere in South Africa by his teammate this past season, that being Kaboza, a man who claimed the victory in the top tier. Buddha will look for nothing less than that as he comes hurtling towards turn one in the colors of Williams, and he goes all the way down to fourth gear to take turns 1 and 2 without incident. It's saying, or Brad Kobe in the comments says, it's a bit weird seeing the president fighting for a branch membership. Well, presidential struggles, presidential fights. It looks like Tindo has had a huge moment on his outlap. If you look on your track map, it looks like in Sector 1, in Turn 1, Tindo's had a huge moment there on his outlap. Tindo is just completely still, according to the track map there. So I hope that Tindo can keep his car together. Tindo's been disqualified from this session from parking in a dangerous location. Perhaps Tindo was struggling to reverse there, but it is all over for Tindo. He was P3. He drops to P4. Disqualified. Tindo. High stakes situation and disqualified in this also crucial quality session in the playoffs. Tindo is out of the qualifying session. He will start from the back of the pack here. Thankfully for Tindo, it's a pack of 4. Here comes Buddha. What can he do in his attempt to challenge the likes of Don and Mex? He crosses the line this time. It's a 120.3. He improved by a second, 1.1 second, but it's still not good enough for P2. It's a 120.396, and Buddha is now P3. We have about 4.5 minutes of this session to go. Buddha has huffed and puffed and given it his all, but pace-wise, he's struggling to keep up with the likes of Don and Mex. Well, Tindo will not be happy wherever he is. We're going to try and see if we can get some team radio there, but we know Toto Wilf is, he's not best pleased with that showing. Tindo currently out of this quality session. It's so crucial, of course, to eke out whatever bit of an advantage you can and try and nudge your way forward as much as possible. Tindo has left this session. What on earth is going on there? Well, it may yet be a network issue for Tindo. I definitely hope not, and we hope to see Tindo reestablish connection and come back into the reckoning here. But as things stand, he's out of the lobby. He's out of the session. We're going to need to see him come back here because he's got about 3 minutes, or just over 3 minutes, to make sure that he comes back and secures his spot. As I say that, Buddha, despite having minimal battery life, is just giving it another go. 5% worth of battery power. Buddha figured, well, I may as well just carry on and keep on pushing. But as I say that, it looks like he's abandoned his attempt. That red light is flashing. Perhaps Buddha is just content just to come back all the way back into the pits. And we'll see what the result there will be. C-Clay says, Buddha has no ERS. What is he doing? Well, perhaps it's only clicked for him now that his battery power will not carry him the rest of the session. But right now, of course, that red light is also flashing, so he is out of fuel. And it's going to take a heck of a lot for Buddha to make it back, refuel, and get that battery charged up with about 2.5 minutes of the session to go. I don't think he can do it. And as Mex seemingly is content to stay in the pits, Don Laka is on his way out to give it one final push One final go. Looks like Mex is also making his way out, slowly making his way out the pit. So we'll see how Don fares. A superb talent as a racer and, of course, as a musician. He's half of the DJ duo, that being Lemon and Herb. Is he the lemon? Is he the herb? Is he spicy? Is he sour on track here today? Well, he's a bona Kona. We will see what kind of music Don can make out here. Can he make that RP18 sing? Max did it. Checo did it to an extent. Can Don do it now? Tindo says, my car just stopped on track. Hopefully, Tindo, we can have you back in the lobby because it says, from our perspective, that you had left the lobby. But I do see Tindo, Tindo active in the lobby in the bottom of my screen here. So hopefully Tindo will be back in time to start this race. Someone who will be looking to start from P1 is Don Lacka. Takes turn 1 without incident. Mex behind him is also on the verge of beginning his final attempt with less than a minute and a half of the session to go. To turn 4 comes Don. He has not managed to improve. He's about 2/100ths of a second slower than his previous best time, but he still has sectors 2 and 3 to make amends for that. As Buddha is back in the pits, he will not have enough time with Buddha to improve on his P3, so it's going to be a second row start for the Williams driver. Here comes Don, sector 2, towards the right-hander and the DRS, back straight, quite taking all those limits as far as the track is concerned. He's still going slower by about 4/100ths of a second, so definitely some work to do for Don. And he's going to have to be inch perfect through sector 3 here. Let's see if that can be the case. Bit wide through the right-hander. It's the final chicane. I do wonder how much time he can eke out, or if it'll cost him too much by the end of this. Don crosses the line, P1, 118.626. It was a superb sector 3 then. Despite going slower relatively to his first and second sectors, he finishes it beautifully. And Mex will now know what needs to be done. But as I say that, he's gone slower. It looks like Mex seemingly had gone a couple of tenths slower at the end of sector 2. Oh man, oh man, oh man. What a beautiful ending to the session. Don laying it down, coming alive in sector 3. Can Mex do the same? He is now in the final stretch of track. No, he's abandoned. He was going 3/10 slower. It's Don Lacka in pole position in the first playoffs of the battle to secure a T1 spot. Well, Don Lacka will start in the front row in the first position, challenged by Mex, who could not improve on his final run. And look at that. He eked out a 3/10 advantage to Don on that final run. Absolutely beautiful stuff. Mex P2 Esbuda will start off in that second row alongside Tindo, who we hope will be back on the grid in time. Don grinning from ear to ear, huffing and puffing, and of course managing to secure that pole position. A beautiful effort from Don, whose trajectory in the Breakaway Racing League has just been beautiful to watch. Let's see what he can do now. And now Twitch Twella says the Don. Don getting cheered on, of course. And now Twitch is racing after this. Their battle to secure a Tier 2 spot begins at 9 p.m. So make sure you stay tuned, or tune in, rather, for that. The first playoff race for the second tier. Well, let's see if Tindo will be able to make his mark here. He'll start from the back, will Tindo. Esbuda, meanwhile, will start in P3. And Don Lacka, of course, in pole position. Don and Tindo using 3 sets of tires. Unfortunately for Tindo, though, it was, of course, not enough to see him challenge. Esbuda used 2 sets. Mex, just the 1 set of soft compound tires. And Gowacko D-Wax asking what happened to the other Tier 1 drivers. Unfortunately, we got word that neither Titus nor Mfundo will be able to take part here today. And, well, knowing how the playoffs go, they're going to have to hope for a miracle in the form of a DNF for one of these drivers, either today, tomorrow, or Wednesday. Because if you miss a race or you have a DNF in the playoffs, well, it is pretty much an uphill battle for you to secure your spot. So, Right now, it looks like clear skies, thankfully, for the drivers. Tindo putting the final touches on that W13. As Buddha, likewise, in the Williams garage, as is the case for Don Laka in the colors of Red Bull. Max in that bright orange McLaren is definitely a sensational talent in his own right. He's definitely one to watch, especially in those initial laps. He does tend to take any advantage of mistakes, does Max, and find himself eking out an advantage. Don, of course, is also clinical over the course of a race distance, and of course, there being so few drivers, any mistake will see you falling all the way to the back of the pack and be severely punished. We now have less than 30 seconds before racing gets underway. Thank you for choosing Breakaway Racing League. It's the playoff spots. A chance for either Don, Mex, or Tindo to get promoted to the top tier, or for Esbuda to keep his spot. It's the pride of Tier 1. Yes, they definitely will suffer as we get a beautiful shot of our top of our drivers here today, looking to secure their spots here, and we'll get a sense of the tire strategy. Would you look at that? Don Laka is going long on his first stint, opting to start on those hard compound tires. Max Esbuda and Tindo have each instead chosen a set of medium tires to begin. So Don, on those hards, is going to have the fight of his life to keep the other three at bay here. Can he do it? Well, thankfully for him, he has the advantage of this tire warm-up, this formation lap, a chance for them to weave to the left and right, trying to get some temperature into those tires. Temperature, thus, of course, affecting the way that the tire performs as far as grip is concerned, especially at the start of proceedings here. So Don, not wasting any time, maintaining the pace. Mex is going to be right there to take full advantage should Don make the tiniest error. Esbuda is going to be fighting to keep Tindo at bay. Remember, Tindo this season was racing in the colors of Williams, but has secured a reserve Mercedes seat for the purposes of the playoffs. So, let's see how Tindo fares. He's going to be the last to put his car on its correct marker, as we watch to see how Don does. A little bit of wheel spin there for Don, kicking up a little bit of rubber, and smoking those tires up. Can he get it right? Yes, he does, as does Max, as does Esbuda and Tindo. Let's see now how these drivers will fare. It's 3, 4, 5 lights. It's the only time South Africans look forward to the lights going out. We are racing in Spain. It's lap 1 of 33. Don Laka versus Max versus Esbuda in the hurdle towards turn 1. Max has the inside line. Does that translate to an advantage? No, he backs into the slipstream. He's going to be content to go into turn 1 in P2 still. Esbuda hangs on to his position. Tindo had a terrible start. Tindo is in the wall. Oh my gosh, it's into before the turn 2. Tindo has lost a wing. Oh, in such heavy pressure situation, Tindo could not keep it together. It's a yellow flag in sector 1. Thankfully, no safety car, it's just or virtual safety car. Tindo, Esbuda has an almighty spin. He's facing the wrong way. It's Don versus Max, the only two drivers whose cars are still pointing the right way. What is going on with Esbuda? What's going on with Tindo? These are the drivers who are tier 1, who were tier 1, who have that experience, but right now being outclassed, outshone, outperformed by Don and Max, who are the top 2 drivers who have kept it together and keep it running. Don, who started on the hard compound tires, has managed to hold on to P1 and has an 8 or 7/10 advantage from Max, who is hunting him down. Lap 1 of 33. There's already a huge gap, as you can see in the track map, between the top 2 and Esbuda and Tindo in P3 and 4 respectively. Tindo definitely has some work to do to catch up, so we'll see exactly how he fares as far as his battle to fight back is concerned. Bongani, Debo Croc, surprised to see all these mistakes, especially from the very, very experienced Buddha and Tindo. Don Laka is the quickest man on track at the end of lap 1, of course. It's 126.0 at the end of that. Tindo was just finished, says Kid K. Oh yes, remember all these drivers need to do is just bring the car home. And Fundo is not here. Titus is not here. And because of that, they are under immense pressure, Fundo and Titus. So all these guys need to do is just finish their 3 races. And it's pretty much going to be tickets for Fundo and Titus. Let's see now what Mex can do. Remember, Fundo and Titus are going to be hoping that one of these guys crashes out here. But so far, Mex has kept it absolutely spotless, sensational, hunting down Don Laka, who has done a great job to hang on to the race lead here, having started on those set of hard compound tires. Remember, his tires would take a while to get to optimum working condition compared to the likes of Mex and Esbura. Tindo, already in lap 2, has gone onto his set of hard compound tires, and presumably Tindo will be pushing those tires all the way to the end. But as I say that, Tindo might have had a spin coming out of turn 2 again. What is going on with Tindo? I do wonder if the team neglected to watch that tire pressure. Well, that is going to be something interesting to watch. Tindo is really struggling at the back there, spinning at this section of the track. That's where Tindo is struggling. Last time out, he sent it into the wall, and on his outlap, he absolutely spun there. Don goes wide there. He's using so much of his battery to keep Mex at bay. Mex is hanging on. He's staying within DRS. Look at Mex. Cicle rightly noting how much battery power Don has used, but Mex, in contrast, is at about 64%. So Don hanging on for dear life to the race lead, but Mex is just content to let Don use up as much of his battery as possible. And don't be surprised to see Mex going for it as soon as that red light on the back of the RB18 starts to flash red, indicating that Don is now down to about 10% worth of battery power. So Mex biding his time here. And let's see how he will fare. Meanwhile, Esbuda had that spin of his own, trying to keep up with the top 2, and found himself way out of the reckoning. Tindo is still 53 seconds behind Esbuda. Look how slow he's moving. This is the section of track where Esbuda, where Tindo kept on coming unstuck, but this time he keeps it together in that Mercedes W13. And no spins this time, but all he needs to do is keep it going. Meanwhile, Mex, going into turn 1, has overtaken Don Laka, who has used up so much of his battery. He's still down to the 30%. Is Don going to fight back? Yes, it's Verstappen versus Russell. Shades of that battle as we saw in the real-life Formula 1, as Mex got that overtake done in lap 4. Don is fighting back. Can he fight back well enough to be able to retake the race lead? Well, let's see if he can get it done in either lap 4 or 5. It looks like he's not necessarily having the same joy coming out of the corners as Mex. As you can see, the McLaren gets a far cleaner, far better exit, even though the gap right now is about 6/10. And Don, who used up so much of his battery to keep the race lead, is now going to have to do exactly the same just to keep up with that McLaren of Mex. So, Mex in command of the race in lap 4 of 33 out here in Spain. A beautiful day in Barcelona. These top 2 being hunted down by Esbuda, who is behind by a factor of about 7 seconds. Meanwhile, Tindo has lost even more ground. Last time we caught up with Tindo, he was about 53 or 54 seconds behind. And right now, as things stand, Tindo is 55.5 seconds behind Esbuda. So, if he's not careful, he's going to be caught. Look at the track map. Look at where Mex is relative to Tindo, who is now just making his way coming out of turn 4, as the leaders are now coming into turn 1. Don is losing ground here. Mex is inching further and further away. And Don is going to have to keep his wits about him and use up as much of that extra battery power that he can muster. It's Mex's turn to dictate proceedings. As far as the race lead is concerned, these top 2 are battling with each other for the race lead, but they're also eking out a small advantage to Esbuda. couple of minutes ago, the gap was about 7 seconds. It's now hovering at the 8 seconds, the gap between Don and S. Buddha. So, a lot of work for the Williams driver to do as we watch these top two battle it out for the race lead. Don no longer spamming his use of that battery power. Meanwhile, Mex has been absolutely sensational with how much battery power he's been using. So definitely not going too hard or pushing too hard as far as his battery power usage is concerned. He's hovering at the high 60%. Tindo has had another spin, and as these two hurtle down towards turn 1, they're going to catch up with Tindo. Tindo had spun again, and he's on the verge of being lapped in lap 6 of 33. What on earth is happening in that Mercedes camp? Man, oh man, oh man. Mex is struggling to pull away, says Ban Kobe in the comment section. Kid K is saying, we welcome Espuda to tier 2. He can hang on. Yes, he can. All he needs to do, remember, is finish this race here. Mex, meanwhile, had broken out of DRS as far as Don Lacka is concerned. But Don managed to eke out a couple of attempts here, and he still has DRS as he opens up that rear wing. It's now lap 6 of 33, remember, and we can reasonably assume that Mex will pit significantly earlier than Don. So if Don manages to stay within a second here, it is still advantage Donathan Lacka, considering that by the time Mex comes out, he still, remember, will have to warm up those hard compound tires coming out of the pits. Whereas Don, far later in the race, will have a medium set of tires, we can assume, if Don goes from hard to medium tires. And then towards the end of the race, Don might have a tire advantage. So all Don needs to do here is stay within touching distance. Don't allow Mex to eke out too much of an advantage. But as I say that, Don has a huge spin, almost faces completely the wrong way, and he loses 5 seconds to Mex, who is grinning from ear to ear and presumably is being told by the powers that be, Andreas Seidel and everybody at McLaren, is telling Mex to push, to apply pressure, because Don was feeling the pressure and had that huge moment, and now Don is going to fight to keep Esbuda at bay. Mex is going to win, reckons C-Clay. Is it a slam dunk? Well, Mex is just going to need to keep it together. Esbuda is now hunting down the RB18. We saw Esbuda creeping up, sort of lurking and stalking Don in that beautiful camera shot that we saw a couple of seconds ago. There is Esbuda, pretty much on the same section of track. He's now hunting down Donathan Lacka, and he can now smell a potential opportunity to redeem himself. Esbuda spun early on. Tindo sent it into the wall early on. And now Don Lacka joins Spin City. And now it's up to Mex to keep it absolutely clean. And as you can see on the track map, everybody is spread out. From Mex to Don to Esbuda and Tindo, who is significantly further behind the pack. And if Tindo is not careful, remember, he could be lapped. He's about 1 minute and 5 seconds behind P3 running Esbuda. And let's get a sense of how far Tindo is as far as the race lead is concerned. He's about 1 minute 15 seconds behind Mex. So, long way to go for Tindo as far as his redemption arc is concerned. And everyone, with the exception of Mex, is pretty much on a redemption arc here. It's going to grow, the gap, because Mex will undercut. So says C-Clay. Well, C-Clay sees the writing on the wall here. It's a Mex victory, first blood to Mex, but long way to go. He's in firm control of proceedings here. Is the McLaren driver. Has a bit of a moment at the start of that chicane, lost the rear end. How much of an advantage will that give Don Lacka? Well, the answer to that is at least half a second. Max had a bit of a moment at the start of the chicane there, and Don Laka is thankful by about half a second. So the gap, which was about 6 seconds, is now down to about 5.5. Remember, Don is going to pit later than Max, but Max used up his battery on that main straight to eke out a couple of tenths of an advantage on the Red Bull driver. Don is cutting the gap, absolutely, but now he's going to need to keep it clean and without incident, without mistakes from here on out and towards the rest of his race here. Esbuda has lost ground. Remember, Esbuda was hunting down. He was so close to Don at some point. Look at that gap now. It was 4 seconds. It's now 12. Esbuda probably had another spin off camera. 12.8 seconds. Oh, no. That is actually the gap to the leader. I beg your pardon. So the interval gap is actually 7 seconds. So he still lost some ground. That gap between Esbuda and Don was hovering at the 5 second mark. Now it's about 8 seconds. So Esbuda not having such a great day at the office. Neither, of course, is Tindo, who, of course, if he's not careful, could be lapped here. He's now making his way on the main straight. Tindo is only just beginning his lap 9, while Max has just begun lap 10. There goes Tindo through turn 1, and here comes the race leader into the same sequence of corners. Don chasing! Bankobi says 6 seconds will be easy with the tire offset. Sequoia says that the gap is going to grow because Max will undercut. Bankobi reckons the medium tires are starting to fall off. Lap 10 of 33. Don opted to start on those hard tires. He opted to go long initially, and well, he will hope to reap the benefit. And as these medium tires start to complain, well, Don will hope to take advantage. Tindo seemingly spun, yes, and Tindo's going to get lapped in lap 9 of 33. In his lap 9 of 33, it's Max's lap 10. Tindo made another mistake, and he has been lapped by the first driver. Tindo in 6s and 7s, and his car is ghosting here. I can see his body shape and the way that he's sitting. Anything can happen. Yes, push Tindo, push. Being cheered on in the paddock at Mercedes, but has got his work cut out for him. Definitely not enjoying this twisty circuit is Tindo. Had so many incidents. He just needs to keep calm and just bring that car home. He's been lapped by Max. And as I say that, Don Laka is about 4.7 seconds behind Max. So if Tindo's not careful, he will be lapped by the likes of Don Laka as well. Tindo, the lapped driver, currently sandwiched between P1 and P2, having been lapped by the race leader. Zotal reckons, do not count Don out yet. Look at that gap, 4.3 seconds. The tire advantage is now beginning to tell as Don's hard compound tires start to sing. Well. It's Buddha. Is that the person? Yes, Buddha has had a moment coming out of turn 4. Thankfully for him, he didn't lose his wing. Esbuda is now 16 seconds behind Don, having spun out of turn 4. So the former Tier 1 drivers really struggling. They have the most experience, but they've made the biggest mistakes, the most costly mistakes in this race thus far. Lap 11 of 33. Let's see now how Don fares. That gap is closing. He is inching closer and closer with each lap, with each sector, with each corner. All he needs to do is just keep it clean. Don, no more mistakes from you. And perhaps by the time Max comes in, he would have eked out a decent enough advantage, and he will have bridged that gap close enough. There goes Tindo through the initial sequence of corners, trying to keep it clean. Tindo trying to hang on, even though he has been lapped, trying to hang on to the slipstream of the McLaren. But pretty soon, Tindo might start seeing blue flags here, and he might start getting the word from race control that it's time for him to create a bit of a gap and allow Don to pass. Here comes Don now, hunting down Tindo. Lap 12 of 33. At some point, this gap was hovering at 7 seconds. The gap between the race leader and P2. Right now, it's down to less than 4. It's hovering at the 3.5 second mark. And Don just needs to keep things, keep it boring, keep it clean, no incidents. Apply pressure, and perhaps Mex will be the one to blink first. And that is what Don is going to be hoping, that he can pressurize Mex into a mistake. Don versus TT or Caboza is going to be lit, says Seclay in the comments section. Looking forward, looking ahead to the next season of the top tier Breakaway League racing. That is what is at stake here. It's the battle to secure a spot among the creme de la creme, the top tier, the premier tier of Breakaway League racing. It is Don doing a stellar job to make that gap smaller and smaller, and Don in lap 13 of 33, as the blue flags wave for Tindo, Don is going to lap the W13 and keep those eyes firmly fixed on Mex. He's going to hunt down that McLaren, and as Don laps Tindo, the Mercedes, meanwhile, is just going to do his best to stay within DRS and eke out whatever advantage he could possibly get. Esbuda is 23 seconds behind this action. Let's see how he will do. .7 seconds as lap 13 becomes lap 14. This man must be applauded. Had a beautiful quali. He could not take advantage on his final run and was pipped to P1 by Don, but he just he lay in the cut, as they say in the streets. He was biding his time, and right now he's in the race lead in lap 14 of 33. Beautiful day by Mex, and he goes even quicker, about 8/100ths of a second quicker than his previous best time through sector 1. So, on 13 lap old medium tires, is he pushing for another fastest lap? Wouldn't that be something? Well, that gap is now hovering at the 3 second mark between himself and Don. So he's doing a beautiful job, is Mex, at keeping the Red Bull at bay. Don trying just to make that gap smaller, but Mex on lap 14 of 33 is going about 3/10 quicker than he ever has. So as things stand, we might just see the fastest lap ever on these aging medium compound tires. So Mex showing his class here, and just as Don was starting to get a little bit of hope, Mex says, no, I will stretch that gap. I will not give you a lot to cheer about, and he goes quickest. It's a fastest lap, 122.2. Beautiful stuff for Mex. And look at that. Don is now having to fight back and use up even more of his battery power. He's down to about 30% worth of battery power on those 14-lap old hard compound tires. Tindo is hanging on here. Tindo has been lapped, but Tindo is content to just stay tucked in that slipstream and take advantage of DRS courtesy of Donathan Laka. Mex responds, says Seclay, as Esbuda becomes the second driver to come into the pits after Tindo had made that mistake. So it's mediums after 15 laps. Esbuda says, all right, I'm happy just to come into the pits, and it's going to be a hard set of tires. A beautiful pit stop there without incident. Some high fives among the pit crew there at Team Williams. And Esbuda is now going to begin his fight back. Tindo is pretty much so far away out of the reckoning as far as battling with Esbuda is concerned. But what can Esbuda do now towards the end of this race? He's got 18 laps, give or take, to make his mark. Mex has opted to come in. Don, remember, is on those hard compound tires and is going to keep going. So Mex pushed towards the end of his medium tire stint, and he managed to find a whole lot of pace. So I do wonder how much more pace Mex will find as this session ticks on along and hurtles towards its end. Don knows what he needs to do. He knows now that the gap between himself and Mex is 18.5 seconds. Crash says Don must push for 5 or so more laps. I do wonder as Mex tries to get some temperature into those tires, how long it'll take him to get these hards into optimum working condition and start to make those hard tires sing. What can you do, Mex? The gap is about 19 seconds, and the gap to his Buddha is a further 44, or 42 seconds. So Mex is really working to get those tires into a decent nick here. And Don knows that these are crucial times for the race lead. These are absolutely critical times for a potential race win as Mex works to get those tires into as best a condition as possible. The gap now is about 20 seconds. 19 seconds. Is Mex finally going to push? And I do wonder, as Don keeps on going for 5 or however many more laps, as Crash suggested, what that gap is going to look like. And we're going to get a sense of how comfortable Mex is on these hard compound tires. And indeed, the same way that Don was looking to keep things clean and clinical while Mex gets his tires up to speed, Don is going to have to be inch perfect coming in and out of the pits. Don is going to need to be absolutely clinical. He cannot afford to make any mistakes. He already did and was passed by Mex. And he managed to close that gap, which was at about 3 seconds by the time Mex came into pit. So Don knows what he needs to do. Lap 17 of 33. Keep it clean. Keep it without incident. What about Esbuda? He had already come in before Mex, about a lap before Mex, but he's got his work cut out to catch up to him. Tindo coming in for his second pit stop. Remember, Tindo came into the pit at the... Oh, Tindo speeding in the pit lane as well. So it's a 5-second time penalty on top of the gap that Tindo already had to make up. It's a brand new set of mediums, and he serves that time penalty, seemingly, does Tindo. So it's going to be new mediums for him as he gets lapped once more by the top 2. So if he's not careful with Tindo, even Esbuda could lap him as well. Esbuda, meanwhile, is making his way now through the third and final sector. And Tindo is going to breathe a sigh of relief because he's out way before Esbuda catches up. Don, 17-lap old hard compound tires. He's managing to keep that gap steady at about the 19-second mark. Caboza was saying that Tindo forgot to pit release. That was the delay that we saw. So Tindo, sequence of mistakes, as you can see. That time penalty still standing for Tindo. And Don doing a great job to keep this gap at a steady and consistent 19 seconds. So by the time he comes out of the pits, he might just come out marginally behind Mex and with a tire advantage. So there's one mission for Don. No more mistakes if he's going to be fighting for the race win here today. But Mex being Mex, he's not going to make it easy. That gap still at 19.2 seconds. So with the 40% worth of battery power, Mex is also content to just keep things kicking on along here without incident. Don, meanwhile, trying to hang on to the race lead, is down to about 16 or 17% worth of battery power. And as you saw there for a split second, on certain stretches, small stretches of the track, Don just uses a little bit of DRS just to push him and make sure to maintain that gap at a steady 19.4 seconds. On board with the Red Bull driver, lap 19 of 33. If you've just joined us, this is the playoffs for a Tier 1 spot. As I say that, Don has gone about 2.5 tenths quicker than his previous best time at the end of that second sector. I do wonder if this is his push lap for him to come into the pits, or if he's still giving it another go. The answer to that is he's still going. It may yet be a fastest lap here on 18-lap old hard tires for Jonathan Laka. Will that be? No, not quite. Marginally slower. Mex has left this session. Oh, it's a nightmare scenario. A man who is catching up, inching closer and closer. Perhaps he's having network issues because Mex has been somehow lost to this lobby. It's the ghost of Mex. He's out of the lobby. And we hope to see him back soon because if he's not careful, Buddha could yet take advantage. How will Max? A-Sam says offense in the comment section. Well. Max needs to come back into the session, into the reckoning. Max being out is such great news for Jonathan Laka. That gap was 19 seconds with a fully running Max. It's now 25. Bongani, Debo Croc says Max is making it too easy for Jonathan Laka. 26 seconds. He could come into the pits and dawdle, stroll out of the pits, have a little bit of a donut even possibly. Oh, Jonathan Laka. Well, he's having a beautiful day here. Beautiful day as far as he's concerned. Mex needs to find his way back into this lobby. That gap is stretching and stretching by every corner that Don takes. That gap is just absolutely ridiculous. And with 13 laps of racing to go, Don opts to come into the pits finally. And he will have more than enough time here. More than enough time to fit those mediums and come out ahead of the McLaren. Well. I do hope that we can get Mex back into the reckoning. Tindo needs to unlap as the Buddha is too far though. Absolutely. Don fitted those mediums in lap 21. He comes out. Lap 21 of 33. Where is Mex? Here he comes. Onto the main straight. Only now. Well, let's just make sure we get Mex back into the reckoning. Just making sure that we get Mex back. Mex has been, Tindo unlaps himself as we were making sure that Mex comes back into the lobby. That gap is now 14 seconds. We did send a direct invite to Mex himself, so we'll see. Hopefully, we will see Mex rejoining the lobby. He did get a direct invite back into the lobby. That gap, 15 seconds. Don grinning from ear to ear. He can afford to make a mistake here, can Don. He can rack up a time penalty. He could spin. It's easy sailing for Don Laka, and it's going to be first blood as things stand to the Red Bull driver. Well. What an interesting set of circumstances as we look forward to getting Mex back into the lobby. Let's catch up now with Buddha. 37 seconds behind Mex, so definitely some work to do to catch up there. But as things stand, Don Laka may even be a further pit stops distance ahead by the time Mex rejoins this lobby. Man, oh man. We hope that we could get Mex back into the reckoning here. 1 second, we're just making sure that Mex gets that invite once again and that he's able to rejoin this lobby. Another direct invitation sent to Mex. Buddha, meanwhile, is bridging that gap courtesy of Mex's network issues. The gap there now 31 seconds. 30 seconds with each and every corner, each and every sector. Buddha bridges that gap, inches closer and closer to the back of the McLaren here. So it's heartbreak for Mex, thanks to some network glitches and network issues, and getting kicked out the lobby. And it's advantage Don, of course, who now definitely has another pit stop's worth of a gap. between himself and Mex, who is still in P2, the ghost of Mex, who we hope to see cross the line in good nick and in tact. Don is gone, says Zotal in the comment section. No mercy. Don showing no mercy. Of course, this being such a competitive league, you cannot afford to give your competitors any leeway, any breathing room if they make mistakes or if they have network issues, as was the case for Mex today. If he's not careful as Mex, he could be caught by Esbuda. So says Seekling. And as the gap looks, it is very, very plausible. And what a day that would be for Esbuda as far as points are concerned. Remember, you only have 3 races in these playoffs to secure as best a points position as you can. It's a battle to accumulate as many points to secure your spot in the top tier of Breakaway League racing. That is the mission. That is the target. And in doing so, Don is going significantly quicker in lap 23 and might just be on the verge of another fast lap here. Yes, it's a 121.864. Don being absolutely clinical, taking no prisoners over here. And with the network issues that Mex is having, Esbuda and Tindo could possibly smell an opportunity late on to put on a set of soft compound tires to claim the fastest lap and just claim a little bit of an advantage, or as much of an advantage as you possibly can. Tindo's on 6-lap-old medium compound tires. Don Lacka, 3-lap-old mediums. Mex has been on those hards for 8 laps, but of course he's trying to find his way back into this lobby. Esbuda has also been on those hards for 8 laps as well, as he looks to catch up to the back of the McLaren, that being Mex, who is now back in the reckoning. Mex is back in the lobby. He's back in control, in command of that papaya orange McLaren. And lap 24 of 33, that gap is well and truly, well, it's gone now, because it looks like in the far distance of that helicopter shot, we could see Esbuda just, Esbuda kind of streaking down the main straight as Mex is making his way now towards the second DRS zone. That gap now 31 seconds. So Mex definitely heartbroken. You had a golden opportunity here to claim what would have been a memorable race win in this pressure cooker, being the playoff spots for the top tier Breakaway League racing. Being watched by most of the league. Tier 3 racers are watching. Tier 2 racers are watching. Even drivers in the top tier are watching and getting a sense of their potential competitors for the next season of the top tier Breakaway Racing League.
Mara usibona bekazamile nje yabona if network beyizange ngabuyi usibona bekazombamba bekazamile abheka manje gap 30 seconds anokushibile.
Yes, it's quite hectic. Esbuda was managing to bridge that gap, as Pratas was saying, but right now it's hovering at about the 30-second mark. So these cars are pretty much evenly split. And to answer your question, Crash, yes, after this at 9 p.m., it's the battle to secure a tier 2 spot as Buddha goes off track. Almost sent it into the wall there. Oh man.
Esbuda wenzani ndoda? Usibona ngathi beka check iscore se-World Cup. Esbuda ungabheka iscore man. Cishe wayifaka ebondeni right. Usibona ngathi bakhuluma nge-World Cup lapho ku-team rating.
Yes, perhaps that is what happened. Esbuda almost sending it into the wall there, and his heart rate is now working its way back down because he had a huge heart-in-mouth moment there, almost sending it into the wall, which is something I hope Mfundo and, or rather, something I suspect Mfundo and Titus were hoping for.
Yeah, no, abomfundo nabo Titus babhizi lapha mhlawumbe babonye angazi man inyanga or something like that. Ukuthi at least one driver crash khona bazothola chance.
Yes, that's exactly what Titus and Mfundo are hoping for. They need a DNF to those two because they only have 2 bites at the cherry to claim a decent enough haul of points so as to consign any one of these four to Tier 2 next season. Well, Esbuda, he lost about, look at that, almost 10 seconds he lost. No, he lost about 8 seconds he lost with that moment almost going into the wall. You do not want to DNF as Don goes quickest once again, 120.664. Zotal, and I will reiterate, if you crash out here, it just piles on the pressure because you only have 3 bites at the cherry. So a DNF just absolutely killed your prospects. Last time out, at the end of the previous season, it was the battle for the Tier 2 spots. Charlie 3 Stacks, aka Charlie 3000, aka the face of Breakaway League Racing, he crashed out, I believe it was in Baku. And even though he was such a competitive driver in the other races, that one DNF cost him a spot as far as promotion was concerned. Meanwhile, Lakoa, aka MKG, he managed to finish each and every one of his races, even though he struggled for pace. But MKG, by virtue of finishing all his races, MKG managed to secure enough points. So all you need to do here is attend races, keep it clean, and, well, take advantage of any mistake that you can. Someone who's doing exactly that is Donathan Laka, even though he himself had that moment earlier on in the race. He's going to be thanking his lucky stars that Mex had a network issue, but ever since trying to bridge that gap from his mistake, he has been relentless. He has been blameless, faultless, spotless driving out here in Barcelona, and has a 32.1 second advantage over the P2 running McLaren of Mex. Esbuda, meanwhile, we saw almost going to the wall, but he's managed to keep things together. 44 seconds behind. Tindo, 23 seconds behind. Zotal says MKG played it smart. Absolutely. MKG just kept it clean, kept it together. And by the end, when all was said and done, courtesy of all of those hot-headed DNFs and hot-headed moments that people had, especially in Turn 1 of Lap 1 of Baku, as was the case in the battle for Tier 2 last season. MKG just kept his nose clean, and he managed to take full advantage here. So Tindo knows, even though he made a series of huge mistakes today, all he needs to do is just bring the car home, and, well, he will be fine. Ban Kobe says, don't forget the life-changing emails. From time to time, as we watch Tindo take Sector 3. Tindo also, of course, has that 5-second time penalty to contend with for speeding in the pit lane. Let's catch up now with the race leader. Is he on the verge of lapping Tindo again? No, he's on the verge of lapping Esbuda, who's currently running P3. Well, what a race, what a performance. With 4 laps of racing to go, Donathan Laka may yet lap Esbuda, who by now I'm pretty sure is getting the word from race control and getting the hints from the marshals that it is blue flag conditions. Create a gap and allow the race leader to pass you. The race engineer telling Esbuda that you are not racing with Don Laka. This is not your race. Make way. And indeed, before the end of this race, Don Laka would have lapped 2 of his 3 competitors here. What a sensational race by the Red Bull driver. And Esbuda, presumably in this sequence of chicanes, would likely make way, or indeed on the main straight here. Here comes Don Laka. He laps Esbuda and will take the beginning of lap 30 with a time of 122.677. Don Laka, the man who came all the way from the bottom tier. Don Laka, the man who was among the first when Breakaway expanded to 3 tiers. He started there. He has been absolutely sensational. And as things stand in Spain, in the highest of pressure environments, the pressure to go to the top tier. He laps, he passes, he dunks on S. Buddha, an established Tier 1 driver. Jonathan Laka, absolutely beautiful stuff, showing his quality, showing what he is made of, and lapping an established driver in Breakaway League racing. Watch out, Tier 1. If it's a beautiful race 2 and 3 in these playoffs, Jonathan Laka will make his presence felt, and he will be no slouch. Crash in the comment section says this Rich Django is going to be competing with the likes of TT, Brown Boy, and Caboza. Perhaps not Don. Well, we will see. Right now, it is almost 2 laps of racing to go. Jonathan Laka has been absolutely sensational, lapping S. Buddha and Tindo. Mex, meanwhile, is looking to improve on the times that he had clocked in earlier. As things stand, he's going marginally quicker. Is Mex. We can see what he can do here towards the end. If Mex can eke out an advantage and snatch that quickest lap from Don, what an effort that would be for Mex, considering, of course, he is running these hard compound tires. Here comes now onto the main straight. 31.2 seconds behind the race leader. He will cross the line and begin the 31st of 33 laps. Meanwhile, S. Buddha has been lapped, as has Tindo. He's 55 seconds behind P2 running Mex is the Williams driver. Let's see now how he fares. Making his way now through Sector 2. Was quite easy on the throttle there through the right-hander. Into the braking zone comes the Williams. Kid K is urging Mex to pit for a set of soft compound tires, as did Crash earlier on in the comment section. Crash says, Peace, aka Justice, no, aka Venuccio, I beg your pardon, is just having a chat with Crash there about who's going to be racing who's going to be among the quickest drivers next season. Man, oh man, oh man, what a tasty top tier we have next year. Caboza, Brown Boy, Sepotemba, Zotal. Tindo gets another 5-second penalty for speeding in the pit lane. Tindo, presumably, is serving that initial 5-second penalty, and he's going to put on a set of soft compound tires. He knows now that this is his golden opportunity, Tindo, to reclaim, or rather just to snatch that extra point, which will go a long way by the time we get to the end of these playoffs. So Tindo is pretty much the man to blink, the man to take advantage there, knowing that Don Laka and Mex did not pit at the final opportunity that they got. So Tindo is taking matters into his own hands, and he spins coming out of the initial sequence of corners. He took matters into his own hands, but the tire said no. He spins again.
Yabile amatera kaThindo. Mara Thindo kanjani uqeda ukuthatha amatera. Brand new tires maqeda lapho uzowa flat spot. Thindo ungayenzi kanjeni uzothola kanjani fast step uhlele khoneni. Thindo hayi kanjena man Thindo.
Tindo really hates that initial sequence of corners. S. Buddha is taking a leaf out of Tindo's book, and towards the end of proceedings here, as the race leaders have begun their final laps, S. Buddha has opted to take a leaf out of Tindo's book, and it's going to be another set of soft compound tires. Yes, Zotal, to answer your question, Tindo was lapped. Tindo was just looking to claim the fastest lap here, even though he had been lapped, as the race leaders have begun the final stretch. It's the final lap. Mex is 30 seconds behind this man. The 86er, aka Scripto Titan, says Tindo pitted way too late. And well, he pitted, did Tindo, and he made a mistake to boot. So, yeah. So baffling decision there. S. Buddha, I'm not sure why he pitted. S. Buddha won't have enough time to go for a proper push. But We have to applaud this man, Jonathan Laka, who qualified on P1, comes home in P1. It's a beautiful royal blue Red Bull day out here in Spain. The first race of the playoffs are claimed by Jonathan Laka, the man to take advantage. And as things stand, remember, he did have the fastest lap. He's been sensational here today. Absolutely beautiful stuff. It's first blood, 2 Red Bulls. Here comes Mex. And man, oh man, oh man, we have to wonder what could have been, what would have been were it not for network issues. But still, he managed to recover as best he can after that huge disadvantage. Comes home, crosses the line in P2 in the first race of the playoffs. As Buddha pitted way too late. This man is fresh out the pit. He's going to be nowhere near good enough to set the fastest lap. But it's P3 for S. Buddha. It's a podium spot for the Williams driver. What about Tindo? Here he comes now. It's going to be P4. It's been a race riddled with mistakes, but thankfully for Tindo, there's no Titus, there's no Mfundo. So all Tindo needs to do here is bring the car home in races 2 and races 3. If any of these 4 drivers crash out in the next 2 races, that is the lifeline that Mfundo and Titus needs. Man, oh man, oh man. It is an absolutely beautiful start to the battle for the playoff spot. And the first person to join us in the commentary box is the first person to cross the line, and the man occupying the top step on the podium, the one, the only, Jonathan Laka. Congratulations, Don Satoli. How does that feel?
Thank you very much. It was a good race. It's a good start for the playoffs. I made a mistake here and there, especially with that spin. So I was just trying to push to catch up to Mix before he does his he changes over to the hards. But I think he got disconnected somewhere. So yeah, unfortunately for him, the fun of the race disappeared from there. But otherwise, great race to the guys. Looking forward to the next one.
Beautiful racing, man. It's your first time in the playoffs. It's a high-pressure environment. Pretty much the whole league is watching. The Tier 1 drivers are trying to get a sense of what their competitors might look like next season. And, of course, Tier 2 drivers are watching Tier 3. Did you feel that at any point, perhaps even towards the beginning? And, just take us through the sense of the occasion, really.
Yeah, well, yeah, I think there is pressure. You feel it in the race because I think the best thing to do is not to make any mistakes. I think that's the mission, because at the end of the day, everyone is going to get points, so you just want to be sure you keep a good track position. So there was pressure, especially at the start, because I wanted to keep Mix behind me as long as I could, since he was on mediums. But I did see I couldn't maintain my speed because of the corners. Makes it a bit of grip traction. So I was just like, as long as I can maintain good distance. But all in all, as the race continued, I think I got comfortable, and it was a good race.
Beautiful stuff, man. Absolutely sensational to see. Beautiful racing. Congratulations, Don. And in the comments, Crash says, let's go, Herb. So beautiful stuff. Beautiful racing there. Max is on the podium. It's P2 in heartbreaking fashion, of course, had that disconnect, which cost you so much because you were absolutely beautiful at the start there and taking advantage and taking the race lead. Just take us through the race, Max.
The connection really messed me up, but I had quite a good start. I knew I had to pass Don and open some kind of gap, but he was maintaining the pace behind me really well. When I pit, I was just trying to get as close to around the 18-second mark to him, because that's around the pit window, and my connection just in South Africa, UPS failed, and but then I also knew that I just needed to get back in and collect those points, because at the end of the day, it's about the points.
Absolutely. And at the start of the race there, Mex, when you were pushing Don, was it a case of just biding your time and hoping that he uses up as much of his battery as possible? before that overtake?
Yeah. I didn't want to rush into it too much. And I also saw on the straight I had quite the advantage, so I just had to wait for the right time, a good exit, and DRS.
Absolutely beautiful stuff. Unfortunately, sorry about that issue as far as disconnect is concerned, but it was good to see you come home and put it on the podium. As Buddha is here, the veteran Tier 1 driver looking to make his mark, fighting for Isdimas at Tier 1. Congratulations on the P3 finish. Take us through that. A couple of mistakes. It wasn't the easiest race, as Buddha.
Yeah, it's been that's how my season has been like, man. I just can't get grip of this game, man. I really can't. And to be fair, I think I deserve to be in tier 2. I have no pace whatsoever. And yeah, I mean, to get points here, I suppose between me and Tinder was a case of who spins the most. I guess I won that battle. and through that, I managed to take P3, but I just can't. And I think it's not the fact that I'm so busy with work, I just don't even get time to practice. I'm just, I wouldn't be surprised if I end up in T2. I really do deserve it. So, yeah, but we'll see. We'll fight to the end.
I'd love your impressions. I think this is probably, you might have raced them in friendlies, but like it's a competitive setting and you're getting a taste of what the likes of Mex and Don are like. Tinder, you've raced with before, but just give me your impressions of these guys as racers and competitors.
No, these guys are fast. You know, I remember after doing the qualies, and I think Mex posted the first lap 118.
Yeah.
Bro, I can't even get that in my bloody time trial. So from there, I knew it was over. So, and I know Tinder has been inconsistent in tier 2 as well. So, like I said, it was a matter of who makes the most mistakes.
Yeah.
I suppose I got away with that and I managed to get P3. So, a same strategy for next 2 races and hope for the best, eh?
Hope for the best. You have an advantage versus Titus and Infundo, who are not here today. So all you need to do is just finish those 2 races, and you never, ever know. Congratulations, that's Buddha. Yes.
Now, I was going to say, I know it's a bad thing to say, but I was quite upset when I saw Mex coming back to the game. It's absolutely bad. It's like I've tried different driving style. I just can't get hold of this game.
Yeah.
This is the first time I've struggled so much with the game. Like from F1 19 to 2021.
Yeah.
I was okay. This one I just can't get hold of. I feel like Ricardo, to be fair.
Yeah.
I feel like Ricardo. I just can't get it right. But yeah, like I said, we'll keep doing. I'm deploying a strategy, Tyson. Get trouble and hope for the maximum points.
Well, good luck, man. Hopefully it works out. It's advantages Buddha versus Titus and Infundo, remember. Thank you very much and congratulations to you and to Don and to Mex. Stay tuned, everybody. Thank you for being in the comment section at 9 p.m. It's the battle for Tier 2 to either stay in Tier 2 or get promoted to Tier 2. So stay tuned. Let's catch up with the last of the comments. Don is good for Tier 1, says Crash. He just needs to race. Tier 2 battle next, says Zotile. Let's go Herb. Fastest lap against the rest, says Zotile. And C-Clay says the former Tier 1 gents got beat. They got dunked on today. Oh, my word. Absolutely beautiful and entertaining race. Thank you, everybody. We will be back for Tier 2 playoff action up next.